Namaste friends, and welcome back to the Way Om Yoga. My name is Sarah and I'm going to be your instructor for this class. So as promised in my last video, I wanted to cover another warm-up that you're going to often see in a more like traditional vinyasa flow, more power flow classes. And the one I'm referring to specifically is Surya Namaskara B, or Sun Salutation B. So I just want to take this opportunity, this video, just to break it down step by step for you, and so that way you might be better acquainted with it as I teach it in my other videos. So more to come. So we're going to start at the top of the mat here in Tadasana, mountain pose. So very similar to what we did last time. And if you didn't catch my last video, I talked about specifically activating through the feet and just bringing that activation up through the core. And what I mean by that specifically, I want you to ground down through all 10 toes. I want you to find a slight activation in the inner thigh muscles, specifically in the adductor. So it's a very subtle squeeze that you're gonna feel, and it's not gonna be very visible, but you're gonna feel that energetically, that pull towards your midline, towards your center. And then through that activation, you're gonna start to feel your core turn on here from that as well, okay? So we wanna keep that activation as we go along in this warm-up. So starting off once again in mountain pose, keeping that activation in mind, we're gonna sink back into chair pose, Utkatasana. So I like to think of like grazing my fingertips against the mat. That may or may not happen. I just have really long arms. But you're gonna sink back into your chair pose here and bending through those knees. So that's on an inhale. And then exhale, we're gonna fold forward back into Uttanasana, forward fold. So we saw this in the last video here. And a little side note about Uttanasana, don't feel like you have to lock out your knees here in this forward fold, especially if your hamstrings are tight, like mine. I want you to keep a micro bend in those legs if needed, okay? On your next inhalation, we're gonna lift through that spine, halfway lift. So pressing the fingertips against something, whether that's your shins, the tops of the thighs if you need to, maybe a set of yoga blocks on either side of the feet. Some of you may be able to reach down for that mat and press against the mat for some traction here. So I always like to take my fingertips against my shins, and that's on an inhale. Exhale, we'll start to fold forward once again. This time, I want you to bend the knees deeply. You're gonna plant both hands down on the mat beneath you. And we're gonna just step it back into plank pose. Now, I didn't mention this in the last video, but for more of my advanced practitioners out there, if you have the jump back through Chaturanga, you can take that as well. So from plank pose, on your next inhalation, again, you have that option to take the knees down if needed. We're gonna start to shift our weight forward. And in my last video, I had you guys practice just from plank pose, whether hands and knees or with the knees off the mat, just playing around with distributing the weight forward and back here. But nonetheless, on your next inhalation, we're gonna shift our weight forward, exhale through Chaturanga. Inhale. We're gonna take Cobra pose here, but you can always take upward facing dog. So what that'll look like, you'll come through Chaturanga, but you won't come all the way onto the belly. You're gonna flip the tops of the feet so that they're down on the mat, and chest is gonna come forward for upward facing dog. All right, on your next inhalation, we're gonna shift our weight back into downward facing dog. And again, I always like to move around just a little bit in my down dog, especially as I'm warming up. From here, on your next inhalation, that right leg is gonna come up and back behind you. As you exhale, you're gonna step the right foot in between the hands, and it might take a couple, attempts to get that foot forward, and that's fine. On your next inhalation, I want you to go ahead and ground down through that left foot. So the foot's at about a 45-degree angle here, at an angle. Both frontal hip points are squared off and facing forward here. And then with that activation in your legs, in the feet, we're gonna root to rise up through Warrior One, so our first standing pose in our warm-up. And if I was facing you this way, it would look like this. Okay, so staying with that, we'll hold here for an inhale. Exhale, we'll bring both hands down, back onto the mat. Exhale, we'll step back through plank pose. We'll take that Chaturanga again. You could take Cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, we'll shift our weight back into downward facing dog. Now we're gonna get all that on the left side. On your next inhalation, left leg comes up and back. Exhale, we'll step the left foot forward this time, preparing for warrior one. So left foot is forward, left knee is bent, and then we're going to extend through that right leg. So that back leg is turned at a 45-degree angle as we come up through warrior one. And once again, just so I can show you from this side here, you want to keep both hip points facing forward as you come into warrior one. Okay? So from here, we'll hold for an inhale. Exhale, we'll plant both hands down. So when you hear in Vinyasa flow class, when the teacher says take the Vinyasa, this is what we're referring to. So they'll say, oh, you know, you could take child's pose, down dog, or take the Vinyasa. So this is the Vinyasa of the Vinyasa sequence. So we'll inhale, come forward. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, into downward facing dog. Now from here, we're gonna go ahead and take our gaze forward. So you have the option, you can hop to the front of your mat, coming back into forward fold, or you can simply just walk the feet forward. Or maybe take a couple hops forward, whatever you feel comfortable with here. On your next inhalation, we'll halfway lift. Exhale, fold you forward. Inhale, we'll sweep back up into chair pose, Utkatasana. Exhale. Hands come together at your heart center. So let's go ahead and just integrate all those movements. I know that was a lot. You can always go back and rewatch it if you need to. So let's go ahead and start off once again in mountain pose, and we'll just go ahead and just take this like we would in a traditional Vinyasa flow class. So once again, on an inhale, let's go ahead and sink back. Chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, find your way into plank pose. Inhale, shift forward. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing. On your next inhalation, right leg comes up and back. Exhale, step the right foot forward between the hands. Let's root to rise up through warrior one. We'll hold for an inhale. Exhale, both hands come down. Let's find our way back through that Vinyasa. And again, you can always skip it and just take plank pose, that's fine. Or sorry, downward facing dog, don't hold plank. On your next inhalation, left leg comes up and back. Exhale, let's step it through. We'll find ourselves back in warrior one. Let's hold for an inhale. Exhale, again, yogi's choice. You can take that Vinyasa or skip it. Taking cobra, taking up dog, whatever back bend feels good to you here. We'll meet back in downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, once again, we're gonna meet at the front of the mat. So you can walk the feet in, you can hop the feet forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, let's sink back into chair. Exhale, hands at heart center. So well done, you just completed Surya Namaskara Surya Namaskara B, Sun Salutation B. Very, very good job, everybody. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Hope you feel nice and warmed up and ready to go for next time. All right, thanks guys, bye.